The 2025 NBA draft is absolutely stacked, and one of the top prospects inside of it is a guy that goes by the name of Ace Bailey. Now, Ace Bailey is probably not only the most polarizing prospect in this draft class, but one of the most polarizing draft prospects I've seen basically ever. If you look him up on Twitter, you look him up on anything, if you're in the draft spaces, you will see people that have him going from anywhere in the top 3, 1, 2, or 3, or all the way down to the 20th overall pick. There's just such a wide range of opinions on Ace Bailey. It's insane how just different people can view this prospect. And in my opinion, I'm one of the people who has the former opinion where I think that he is a top prospect in this class, and I think he's 100% a top 3 guy. And for those of you that don't do scouting or you just don't know much about the upcoming draft prospects, let's just introduce you to Ace Bailey a little bit. Ace Bailey is a 6'10" freshman for the University of Rutgers. He came into this draft into his recruiting class, I'm pretty sure, as a top 2 recruit, maybe the number 1. I'm not 100% sure on that. He is currently 3rd in points per game among freshmen, which is obviously unbelievable, and he's doing it on very strong efficiency as well. And he's also top 10 in blocks per game among all freshmen, and is also just an all-around elite level athlete. So as a prospect, from all of that I just listed off to you, you're probably like, well, damn, that sounds like a pretty good guy. A 6'10" freak athlete who looks like he's pretty good on defense and can efficiently make shots, and 3rd in points per game among every freshman. That is pretty damn good. And yes, you would be correct, but there are some concerning aspects to his game that a lot of people, I think, are completely overblowing. Because by concerning, I say it in quotes, because it's not exactly that concerning, but a lot of people act like it is the end-all be-all, and I'm going to be saying why I just honestly disagree with the people who have him outside of the top 3 and think he's going to be this bust of a prospect due to these other, in my opinion, minor details in his game. So to start off, before I do address any of the criticisms, I'm going to be introducing you to all the criticisms that he will be getting. If you look him up on Twitter especially, this is what most draft circles say that are against Ace Bailey as a prospect. The first one is just that advanced stats people hate him. Like, if you hear about his block or box plus minus, my God, you would think he'd be the worst prospect of all time. The problem is, plus minus is an extremely flawed stat for multiple different reasons that I'm going to be getting into a little bit later in this video. The second main criticism is that he has a bad shot diet. My God, shot diet is thrown around with this dude's name at an unbelievable pace for a prospect. I've seen people say players take bad shots, but the amount of times that you'll see someone be like, oh, his shot diet sucks. Oh my God, he sucks. Jesus, it's unbelievable how many times you will see that around his name. The next one is probably the most credible one, is the fact that he isn't a good passer / he doesn't really pass the ball that much. Now, that is an understandable criticism, and I will give them credit for this one, and I will get into a little bit why I think it might be a little overblown, but overall, this is probably the best criticism they have. The next one is that he is a bad free throw shooter, and I don't even have to explain to you that just because someone isn't a great free throw shooter basically has nothing to do with the rest of his game. The most you could say is that it just kind of applies to his percentage, but it really doesn't. So I'll be getting into that in this video. And then lastly, it's the fact that he makes tough shots. I know that would sound like a good thing to most people, but that is legitimately that's basically the criticism, is that he just takes and makes tough shots. So those are really the main 5 criticisms that you are going to see around Ace Bailey, and why people think he should be falling down in draft boards. These are the 5 reasons, really, to why people disagree with him being a top prospect in the class of 2025. So the first one I'm going to address is going to be all the advanced stat nerds who think that, oh, his box plus minus is bad, therefore he's a bad player. Box plus minus is probably one of the most flawed stats of all time in any team sport, because as you know, we can all acknowledge basketball is a team sport. You cannot win one-on-one. You cannot win with just having one player and 4 bats. It literally impossible. And Ace Bailey's box plus minus is bad because although he does have a good teammate in Dylan Harper, the rest of the team is pretty fucking atrocious. So what does it mean? That means they lose a lot of games. What happens when you lose a lot of games? You don't score as many points as the other team, meaning your box plus minus is gonna be in the negative for a lot of those games. And if you don't know how box plus minus works, it's just pretty much how much you are winning by or losing by when you're in the game and before you get subbed out. So for example, if the game is 0-0, then a team scores 3 points and you score 0, and then you get subbed out, your box plus minus is going to be -3. And that's basically how it always goes for the entirety of the game. And this is a very stupid way to do an individual prospect to address him, because obviously, although he could play extremely good, he can play out of his mind, he is still gonna have a bad box plus minus because his team is losing because of things that he just simply cannot control. Like, if you're on the court playing great, but your center is getting hoed every chance he gets, and you end up getting shit on because the other team center scores 30, but you score 25, now you have a box plus minus -5, despite you playing amazing and never missing a shot or anything. So box plus minus is an absurdly flawed stat, and the fact that this is a huge area where people point to is just stupid, because look at the leader of really any box plus minus season, and it's literally always because he's on a good team, or at least on a team that was good for that year. For example, in the year that 2020 through 21, Drew Timme was 7th in box plus minus, and it was only because he played for Gonzaga, and Drew Timme, by the way, let's be honest here, is pretty terrible in terms of NBA. And then look at the other leaders. You have Luka Garza, who played for Iowa. You have Evan Mobley, who played for USC, Utah State, Wisconsin, Michigan, Virginia, all Baylor, even Oregon. These are all names and teams that are always good. And it's not a coincidence that that is where always the box plus minus is with the best teams of that year. So you can be a great player on a bad team, and your box plus minus is still going to be very, very bad. And if you really need further proof to why the box plus minus score is so bad, LeBron James's rookie year, he had a box plus minus of -144, which would put him towards the bottom of the entire NBA for that season. And also in that same season, just because I was looking at it, a guy by the name of Tracy McGrady was the 6th worst box plus minus. So if that doesn't show you how absurdly horrible this stat is, and can be if you take it out of any context possible, that is why the advanced stat nerds who use this like it's a gospel stat, like it proves everything, are so flawed. And the people that do it are usually people who just don't know basketball, don't play basketball, or never played basketball. And that is a big problem in scouting, because you have these stat nerds who their stats say one thing, but if you actually watch the game and have context to the stats, they make a lot more sense. So no, just Ace Bailey having a bad box plus minus means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. Really, the last thing I want to say on this is that these advanced stats cannot predict a ceiling in a future either. A player right now at 18 years old, which Ace Bailey is obviously going to be much better in 2 to 3 years from now than he is currently. So his stats he's putting up right now, yes, they are important to say, is he a draftable player and can we build on top of it, which if you watch him for 30 seconds is a very obvious yes. But these stats, in the grand scheme of things, future-wise, honestly don't matter. As long as he had decent stats with the ability he has, we're like, okay, we can build on this, we can develop this, and his ceiling can be very high. These advanced stats cannot predict development, they can't predict ceilings, and that is a huge flaw once again, and that's why people that rely on them so heavily have such big problems, and that is the reason that bust exists. Like, there's bust drafted every single year. I mean, look, there's no getting around it. If advanced stats were so accurate and you could lean on them so much, you would never draft a bad player. But we, like I said, basically always have big busts. Ousmane Dieng, the Thunder are one of the best drafting teams in the NBA in recent history, and even they can't get around busts. They had guys like Pokusevski and Ousmane Dieng who have not been good players for them at all, and they were picked pretty high in the draft. But that is why advanced stats just cannot be heavily relied upon, because busts exist, they're not fully accurate, and you have to have context with them, and when you take the stats just out of context, you can paint a picture that is just not entirely true, and that is my biggest gripe with people who rely mainly and almost solely on these advanced statistics. The next point I'm going to address is going to be the fact that he takes tough shots. And yes, it is true, he does take some tough turnaround shots. He also takes a lot of easy shots, and those tough shots, by the way, he's able to make with pretty good consistency. Meaning that yes, although he is taking these bad shots, and this would be a valid criticism if he wasn't making them, but he is making them and looks very comfortable in doing so. He's shooting 46% from the field and 36% shooting from the three-point line. He is making these very easily. He's consistently making these turnaround shots. So are they tough shots? Yes, but are they tough shots to him? evidently know he's also a very solid fast break guy. He's with his athleticism, he can finish very well. And like, there's a lot of concern with his finishing ability, which I just don't understand. He hasn't shown a problem finishing. People just say that because like he isn't shooting layups 24/7, and I think they want him to because he's 6'10", but if you have the skill set to do other things, that makes it easier for you not to have to force one thing every time. So this criticism makes zero sense. Yes, he takes tough shots, but he makes them. And I don't know what else I can really say to that besides that's just a false criticism. There's no way you can judge somebody for doing that, because if he can make them in college, he's going to be equally guarded. I mean, yes, the level of athlete is better, but he is 100% an NBA level athlete, so it's not like he's going to run into that problem. And a tough shot, if he can make it in college, it's going to translate. Like, you're not going to just forget how to make these shots once you go to the next level. It might take a little bit of adjusting to do the faster pace. You might have to shoot them and things like that, and you're going to have to learn what you can and can't do. And there is going to obviously be a learning curve like there is for every other prospect of all time ever. But for this to be a criticism is just, in my opinion, pretty ridiculous. And then, like I said, now we're moving on to their probably best criticism, which is the fact that his passing ability is not there. And I would agree, like, his passing definitely needs work and it's going to need to improve. But luckily, he is an 18-year-old who has never played probably in a game where he hasn't been the best player. And then on top of this also, you have to remember, it's probably also a big part due to his environment he's currently in. Let's look at the context of the Rutgers team. Rutgers have Dylan Harper, in my opinion, far and away the best guard in this draft class. He is always bringing the ball up the floor. People have to pick him up full court because he's that talented, and he's a very solid passer as well. Dylan Harper is just an amazing player overall. So when you have a player that's a great passer and is putting you in such good situations, you're not bringing the ball up the floor because you're not the best guard on the team because you have Harper on it. So he's losing that ability to pass, and a lot of times he's getting passed to for the reason to go score. So he's not really looking to pass either, and he's not really needing to look to pass because he is scoring so much. And may I reiterate, he is an 18-year-old forward. Forwards are never really known for their passing ability. Michael Porter Jr. wasn't some elite passer when he was coming in, and he was turned out pretty fine, in my opinion. And I think with his ability, it has shown to pass. Like, he has games where his assist numbers do get up there. It's just the fact that he doesn't really get asked to pass the ball a lot. He's not put in situations where he needs to pass the ball a lot. And I think that's more of a product of his environment on the team he's on, because for a few reasons, like I said, one, he's not bringing the ball up the floor. Two, his teammates aren't that damn good. So a lot of assists that he would get, they're just not converting, and they just rely so heavily on his offensive ability from him and Harper that they need him to score the ball and they don't need him to pass the ball. So yes, maybe his passing needs work, but I wouldn't say his environment is conducive to a high assist environment for an 18-year-old forward, okay? Like, they desperately need this guy to score to stay in games, and that is exactly what he is doing. So when you're shooting that much and you're that relied on to score, you're probably not going to be passing the ball all that much, and I think that is a big reason to why his assist numbers are down. And I think they will go up when he gets to the NBA as he gets more competent teammates, and team ball is much more emphasized because you need it to win at an NBA level. And then probably for their second best criticism, which is the fact that their free throw percentage is down, and for that I would say, one, the free throw percentage doesn't concern me that much. Like, he can efficiently hit threes and from the field all year. He's going to practice his free throw shooting. There's already videos of him constantly practicing it. It's going to improve. It's probably more of a mental thing at this point than anything. He can shoot the ball. His mechanics are fine. It's going to come. He's going to improve his free throw shooting. He's 18 years old. He's probably never worked on a free throw in his life. He's a freak athlete. Like, the fact that he can shoot at all is impressive enough. Like, his free throw shooting is going to come with time. He's going to be fine in that area. I think that's just a pretty stupid and silly thing to really be concerned about. And if you don't draft this kid because his free throw percentage is low, I would just say that's kind of ridiculous. And by the way, it's not like his free throw percentage is like the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. It's bad. It's at 60%. But, like, it's not like 30%. Like, it's not like it's, like, so concerning he's going to have to work on it all day, every day to improve it even 1%. No, like, his mechanics are fine. He can shoot in every other aspect. I have full faith that he's going to learn how to shoot a damn free throw in a few years minimum, okay? Like, I'm just not really too concerned about it. At least that criticism is at least a valid one to the fact that it's at least truthful. And then my last point is going to be the fact, like, when Azur and Amen Thompson were coming in, one, I was a huge fan of them. I had them as, I think, the 4th and 5th best prospects in the entire NBA. And nobody, and I mean nobody was concerned with their shooting and everything, and they were some of the worst shooting players you would ever see. Their 3-point percentage against high schoolers in the OTE Elite League was 26 and lower percent. Their free throw shooting wasn't that good. They were just elite level athletes who were amazing on the defensive side of the ball and could dunk and finish at a pretty high rate. And that's why I like them both as prospects, because I was like, the rest of this is going to come. They have so many other tools. The rest of this is going to come with time. The shooting surely will get better. It can't get any worse. It's going to come with time. And look how they have turned out. Azur has had more injury issues, but when he plays, it's still 100% a net positive for the Pistons. And Amen Thompson is quickly becoming maybe a borderline star level player. So with that said, with these two players showing that this type of player can work recently in the NBA, and I would say Ace Bailey is a way more polished, doing it against way better competition version of Amen and Azur Thompson coming in, I would say Ace Bailey, in my opinion, is an absolute home run of a pick, and you would be very silly not to pick him with a top 3 pick in this draft class. So unfortunate, guys, though, that's going to be it for this video. So comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think Ace Bailey is a top prospect in this class? Do you think he's a bottom one? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like, point the like button, subscribe button, and absolute road to me. And I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day, so you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah, blah.